Dzień dobry
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the panel called Ukraine is a Woman. We are going to talk with our fantastic panelists on how to help wisely and effectively. I invited Jolanta Kwaśniewska, the First Lady of the Republic of Poland between 1995 and 2005, the founder and president of Porozumienie Bez Barier Foundation, positively engaged in helping Ukraine. The next guest is Zhanna Lison, a psychologist from Kiev, now living in Warsaw. We also have with us Marta, entrepreneur, founder, and the head of the Be Hero Foundation, actively helping in Ukraine. And we have with us Elizavieta Pikalova from the Crazy People Foundation in Zaporizhia, who came to us to share the story of the reality of war. I'm Dudek, I'm a journalist of Gazeta Wyborcza and Wysokie Obcasy. I have the great privilege to chair this meeting for you. War has been lasting for several terrible months now. We can see it on the media, but now the help which is offered and which attracted dozens or hundreds of Polish citizens goes both ways. On the one hand, the First Lady's Foundation helps here with the 3 million women who came here with children. On the other hand, foundations like Crazy People or Be Hero help directly in Ukraine, and we'll be talking about it in a moment. The first question goes to the First Lady. From the very beginning, since the outbreak of the Russian aggression, your foundation engaged in helping. The program of relocation was established. What challenges did you have to face when all forces of the foundation were sent for helping Ukraine, and why this relocation program is so important? Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you for inviting me to this very important meeting in Łódź. Why did we decide to get engaged in helping Ukraine? It's natural, like breathing. It is amazing because the entire Poland, all Poles, went to the border. Our foundation brought all our acquaintances from Ukraine as a result of my husband's work in Ukraine and for Ukraine. We have had a number of acquaintances, so all wives, sisters, mothers and grandmothers came to Poland. Some continued their journey farther to the west. But since so many people from Ukraine arrived in Poland and we could see what was happening at the border, we learned that it wouldn't be easy to use the efforts of volunteers taking Ukrainians to their families. A fantastic partner from the United States called me whether we would like to become a partner as a foundation for the group called Global Empowerment Mission. The fantastic Michael Capone said he was looking for people with clean hands. I was very happy to mention that, and this is the relocation program. After 25 years of running the foundation, I didn't expect I would join such a huge assistance program. We employed 40 Ukrainian women who gained the money and possibility to work with us. So far, $50 million was the assistance granted. This is the value of help in two big warehouses in Rzeszów and near Warsaw. This way we can distribute the help for Marta and her organization, but also for a number of other organizations. Relocation was important for us. I was quite surprised hearing Mr. Kaczyński, who said, "We are not going to talk about relocation. There is room for everybody in Poland." That's true. There is room for everybody in Poland. We showed it. Now we have nearly 7 million people from Ukraine. But when our foundation could relocate people, we were in different centers, railway centers. In Expo Center, we had 7,000 people at a certain point in time. Bad, near bad, people with disabilities, children, elderly people, dogs, cats, hamsters. And when you look at the wave of people, because when you say 6 million people cross the border, this is only a number, but each of these people is a human being with their own problem. Our girls from Ukraine participated in a training. Many applied to the foundation, but they were going to these places, sat on the beds, and they convinced these women in Ukrainian that that was not the right place. Our foundation was responsible for organizing departures to different places all over the world. We used the help of a big travel agency to send these people to different destinations. Owing to our American partners, we spent $3 million, and recently we have learned that 40,000 people have left. Every week we organize another bus leaving Poland. Yesterday there was a group that left to Austria. It doesn't make sense for the people who cross the border to stay in the dark, stiff rooms. These facilities look like this place. Mothers with children, people with disabilities, spend entire days without any light. They can go out the door, but well, it is organized in a good way. They got breakfasts, dinners, lunches. We can offer lots of things. We can provide lots of assistance, but this is not the place to live. So if somebody can go to Finland, the Netherlands, Germany, France, Italy, Canada, USA, you should go. We tell them, leave. And they say, all right, but how are we going to come back? And we always say, if you leave, you will always come back if you want. I'm just worried by one thing. We often heard information from the women. We saw they didn't feel well, that it was hard for them to function in such a huge facility. There was no sense of intimacy in any sense. And when we said, we've got a great possibility to depart to Finland, we'll show videos, we'll show the conditions. There is an organization which takes responsibility for you. We participate in the governmental project of departures to Austria. So these people know very well what the country offers. But all of them said, I won't go because my husband doesn't allow. That's a problem. If I were in a similar situation, if I were to live with my children for a month, I would do it. to see how you can live in a different country. Because if you go one way, when you can return, you will always return. From the very beginning, the care over women and children is very important. We heard from La Strada warning about the cases of kidnapping and human trafficking. That's why some women were traumatized not only with the war, but they were also scared. For a woman with a child, it is a very stressful situation. So relocation programs are profitable and valuable. Thank you for telling the story. I would like to tell you where it comes from. The voivode told us, because the voivode is responsible for all these large centers. When a bus arrived, women were getting on and they saw three male drivers. They were going somewhere, not knowing where to, so they decided they had been kidnapped and taking them, they didn't know to. After 1 hour, they said, "Take us back to the place from which we left." That's why it's so important to guarantee safety here, and we know exactly who arrived where. Everything is recorded. If somebody asks, "Where is Zhanna Biczewska?" we always know where she is. That's valuable information, and the care is invaluable. They don't disappear. Before I ask you, Marta, about what you do, how fantastic work you do in Poland and in Ukraine, offering different kinds of help. We know the reality only from the screens, and we are lucky because we know it only from the screen, not hands-on. We can't imagine what is happening on site. You came from Zaporizhia, so I would like to ask you about the war reality. Now we greet from the time of peace. I would like to thank you for inviting me here. Honestly speaking, everything is well, everything is okay, and I wouldn't like any of you to feel and experience what people in Zaporizhia do. That's a very difficult and complex question. Why am I staying in Zaporizhia? That's my personal choice. I run a foundation. I've got my employees and I've got people who need me back there. Not everybody can leave their home. Not everybody can leave elderly people, their grandfathers, grandmothers, and leave somewhere. The majority of Ukrainians think that we need to build a kind of foundation. Under the current conditions, it's difficult to survive, but at a certain point of time, it becomes the reality. I don't want to say you become used to it. Initially, you are afraid, you are scared, you think this is the last day of your life, but then you are no longer scared. Today, Marta said that you are no longer afraid on the outside. The fear is inside. You don't let it go. Yesterday, I was in Ukraine, traveling from Zaporizhia to Lviv. Then the volunteers took me from Lviv. When we were traveling from Zaporizhia to Lviv, at 5 a.m., There were 4 drones exploding in Zaporizhia. They destroyed a house, a car park, and 300 missiles were released. It's not the fear, but it's painful. You stand on debris, on ruins of people's lives. Children lose their kins, their parents, and the most valuable thing we have there is the life. You cannot describe all these things. Once you are there, everything is perceived in a different way. When you are here, you can talk about it, you can smile, but in reality, deep inside, you experience the pain of everybody staying there. Nobody forces them. Everybody has their choice. When volunteers were arriving from Poland to Zaporizhia, we were saying we want to stay here. But we said it was a dangerous place, and they were saying, since we arrived here, I'm ready for this danger. That's the way it looks like.
Bardzo dziękuję za tę poruszającą i bolesną opowieść o wycinku tej wojennej rzeczywistości i codzienności. Marto, jak to się stało? Ty prowadziłaś firmę, byłaś bardzo zajętą, jesteś bardzo zajętą przedsiębiorczynią, wybuchła wojna i nagle okazało się, że po prostu wróciłaś z Lizbony, jak rozmawiałyśmy, i natychmiast zaczęłaś działać. Pierwszy samochód pojechał drugiego dnia?
Pierwszy samochód, wtedy jeszcze nie Fundacji Be Hero, tylko nazwaliśmy się Spontaniczna Grupa Pomocowa. Taka grupa powstała na Messengerze i każdy tam dodawał kolejne osoby. Faktycznie wojna zastała mnie na takim króciutkim wypadzie i jak usłyszeliśmy, co się dzieje, to było takie odrealnione. Byliśmy w pięknym słońcu, niebieskim niebie i my słyszymy, że właśnie trwa atak z terenu Białorusi. I bardzo szybko zadzwonił do mnie mój brat, który pracuje w firmie logistycznej, bo tak, jestem seryjną przedsiębiorczynią, jak to się mówi, robię w biznesie. Ale gdzieś tam te działania pomocowe są mi zawsze bliskie i moja siostra się śmieje, że jak raz na rok nie zmuszę wszystkich dookoła i siebie do wydania pieniędzy na coś dobrego i zrobienia czegoś dobrego, to jestem chora. I miałam takie marzenie, że przed 40 założę fundację i będę... Wtedy pomysł był taki, że chcę wspierać kobiety, które miały mniej szczęścia niż ja, były może urodzone w innym miejscu, w innym czasie. Mam 38 lat i Be Hero powstało w końcu lutego. Więc pierwszy konwój pojechał od razu drugiego dnia wojny, dlatego że zadzwonił do mnie mój brat i powiedział, wiesz, mam tutaj dziewczynę, Linę, i ona cały czas płacze, nie wiem o co chodzi, ale mówię, no to idź się dowiedz o co chodzi, no bo wiem, że jest wojna w Ukrainie.
Prawda? Waszą pracownicę.
Tak, ona pracowała u nas w jednej z firm i właśnie mój brat mówi, siedzi przy stole i płacze. No to się dowiedz, czemu płacze. I się okazało, że jej 17-letnia córka, która miała po maturze do niej dołączyć do Polski, jest w Ukrainie i wiecie, no pierwsze dni wojny były absolutnie stresem, szokiem, przerażeniem dla wszystkich, dla niej jako matki również, tym bardziej. I okazało się, że ta córka jest tam niejako uwięziona z dziadkami 89-letnimi. Ona nie wie, jak do niej pojechać. Taka wielka bezradność. I znalazł się śmiałek, który powiedział, to ja pojadę. Summa summarum Lina zdecydowała, że po córkę to ona pojedzie parę dni później i zrobi to sama, ale myśmy już mieli zebrane pierwszą pomoc humanitarną, gotowego pierwszego śmiałka, pierwszy samochód, więc pierwszy człowiek wjechał w Ukrainę, no i właśnie wrócił tam po 2 dniach i mówi, dzwoni do mnie i mówi, to nie wygląda dobrze, tam jest bardzo dużo tej pomocy potrzebnej, te kolejki kobiet z dziećmi stojące do granicy. Panika w Lwowie, jako tym pierwszym mieście takim najbliżej nas. Więc wylądowałam w niedzielę 28 o 16, a o 20 wsiedliśmy z moim ukochanym do jednego busa, mój przyjaciel do drugiego busa, bo tej pomocy humanitarnej pozbieraliśmy strasznie dużo. Leki, opatrunki, oktanisepty, bandaże uciskowe i tak dalej. I zapakowaliśmy 2 samochody, pojechaliśmy w Ukrainę. I ja poczułam, że jak już usiedliśmy w tym samochodzie i mój kochany prowadził, ja sobie po raz pierwszy przestałam się wtedy bać. bo się skoncentrowałam na tym, że jedziemy na misję. Mieliśmy termosy z ciepłą herbatą, mieliśmy kanapki dla tych kobiet, co z tymi dziećmi stały w tych kolejkach do tej granicy, żeby już po drodze im tam jakoś pomóc. I na moment odszedł ode mnie lęk, no bo lęk jest naturalny. Atakują naszego sąsiada, my jesteśmy drudzy w kolejce. Nasze położenie geopolityczne jest tragiczne, uświadommy to sobie. I Unia Europejska i NATO są naszym jedynym ratunkiem długoterminowym. I polubiłam to uczucie, żeby się nie bać. Więc zobaczyliśmy skalę potrzeb, która jest olbrzymia. I zobaczyłam też, jak łatwo nam to poszło. 4. dzień wojny, a my wypuszczamy drugi konwój, który załadowany jest towarem o wartości kilkudziesięciu tysięcy złotych. Docieramy na miejsce, znajdujemy od razu wolontariuszy, którzy wspierają tych, którzy są zmobilizowani na front. Od razu trafiliśmy do jakiegoś szpitala, który powiedział, mamy braki takie i takie, bo spodziewamy się, że będziemy mieli tutaj zaraz rannych z frontu. Pomyślałam sobie, że te same reguły, które działają mi w pracy na co dzień, w biznesie, oszczędzanie czasu, oszczędzanie pieniędzy, oszczędzanie ludzi, podejmowanie decyzji mądrych, a nie zdeterminowanych przez jakieś ego
not decisions determined by the ego and the unnecessary motivation. So the same aspects contributed to the fact that we were efficient in delivering our humanitarian aid. And this is how it started. And then I don't know how it all followed, but I don't know that I didn't give my telephone number to anyone. And then I discovered that so many people had it and they were asking me, Marta, my name is Alexi, I received your telephone number from Taras. So I started writing the details in my notebook. We started operating in 3 areas: support for medics, hospitals, civilians, and initially we decided to support the army because providing bandages and ultrasound machines is not sufficient for Ukraine to win. In a moment we will talk about the efficient aid, but we have to talk about these atrocities. We remember these dreadful images from Bucha and other places, but we only watch them on our television sets, screens. Mrs. Kwaśniewska was saying about these women who were rescued but imprisoned in these huge halls without any privacy, the fear, the concern for the families. Zhanna, you are a psychologist, you work with patients in Ukraine and also with refugees in Poland. So how to support them wisely? We meet them, they are everywhere, at school, in offices, at the doctors, they are our sisters and neighbors. How can we help them? Hello. I work with clients and I must say that now the problems can be divided into psychological and social. Psychological sometimes result from social issues or the other way around. When I'm talking to my clients, I'm quite shocked because they came to Poland. These are only not the people who lost their homes, but they also lost opportunity to work. But they didn't lose energy to survive. It is clear. My clients include experts who used to be very popular in Ukraine, and now they work physically. They are not afraid of hard physical work. And to be honest, it's a huge dissonance because yesterday they had everything, super gadgets, clothes, and today you waking up in a beautiful, not so beautiful European city, and it is all meaningless because you don't know who you are. So all these existential questions take their will to live. And the clients say that we get huge support from Poland and other European countries, but I don't want to get up from bed in the morning. I don't want this. I don't want to accept this support. There are also Ukrainians who behave like children. They are not ready to do anything. They do not want to share responsibility. They do not want to get up in the morning. I can do this. I can tell you about my needs, but they don't want to do it. There is another category of clients. They do so many things every day, so they can block emotions. But this is very hard. Psychological religion dictates what we should do, and my experience, my colleagues' experience shows that group processes are very helpful. I'm grateful to organizations, foundations, experts that organize such group processes, group therapies, group reflections. So these are very creative actions where they can be with their peers and they can work through their traumas. Resolving, meeting the needs. Many months have passed, so the initial needs have been met. Now there are different needs. So, for example, they can be deprived of information. I know that the foundations want to help, but some tools are missing. Tools that would allow to combine and explain which needs people may have. I should also add that in Ukraine, we have used social media. If you want to read the news, you just access Telegram communicator, and then you can open bank account very quickly. And I think this is the answer. When I join a group in social media, for example, Ukraińcy w Warszawie, Ukrainians in Warsaw, you can read about all the needs. People want very specific things. So maybe experts and leaders can interpret it for specific people. So everybody needs relations. Relations are helpful. I'm very grateful to all the Poles and to you personally. I'm grateful to the ladies for all you have done. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here and sharing your observation from your practice, from your office with us. Mrs. Kwaśniewska, several weeks ago, we had an interview, and then you told me an anecdote. This panel is entitled "Ukraine is a Woman," so it's the women who are responsible for maintaining children, providing them with everything. So I speak with these women very often. Ekaterina from Kharkiv was one of my interlocutors. So I asked her why she's not leaving. She said, "I'm not leaving because if everybody leaves, there will be no one to bake bread for the militaries, for seniors. So some things just have to be done, and I have to do that." I remember that you participated in hundreds of such meetings. Actually, each of the panelists did it. I think that the strength of these women is unique. So if you could tell us about this meeting at the border crossing, the woman who was walking with her son. That was the time. I think in future, Ukrainian girls, you will have to benefit from it, and I think you will be wiser when the women after the World War II behaved. So when the war starts, men go to fight, and everything else has to be done by women. During the Second World War, even Queen Elizabeth II was a mechanic. She was driving a truck So that was the time that in all factories there were female workers. They were doing all the jobs that previously her husband's son and sons did. So during the war, that was the gender time. Let's put it this way, although it may sound funny. After the war, when the men could come back to their previous roles, they did it. And then they told women, they sent them away and they said, just deal with your women's business, that is having children. You know, of course, women are born to have children. It's natural. And the women who wanted to work in those jobs, they couldn't do this. So you make sure you benefit from this benefit and use the experience of your older friends who were in similar situation. Do not allow the men to get rid of you from the places you are in during this armed conflict. It's very important. I think now the story. We went with my foundation director Ania Drabik. I love Ania. Ania, please show your face. Great round of applause for Ania. So, from the very first day of the war, Ania coordinated all the actions. At 8 a.m., she was already in the foundation. She finished work at midnight. So we went to the border crossing in Malecka. I wanted to support an organization Katowice, wolne miejsce, empty, free space. So they asked me whether I could promote this foundation work. So from the first day of the war, they are making warm meals in the no one's land. So it's a roofed place and there is a huge pot, and every day 300 liters of soup is cooked. So they
ze strony Ukrainy tamtędy.
So anybody can go there and ask for help. I gave the recipe and we cooked a soup with some meat. Then a woman approached me. It was a beautiful blonde holding her child. When she turned towards me, I saw that child had cerebral palsy. I asked where she was coming from. She said she came from Dnieper with my son. It was 8 or 9 year old. He must have been heavy with a dummy in his mouth. She was smiling, she was like radiating. After a dozen or so hours, she reached the border and she said, "It's no burden, it's my beloved child." And she kept on smiling. I asked, "Where are you going?" "I'm going to Bosko." "Do you have any meetings and appointments there?" "No, I read that that was the place where my son can get help." And that's true because there are many spas there. You can imagine she was traveling with her son that had full limb cerebral palsy, and she was going nowhere. Didn't know where. It's different when you cross the border knowing where to go. They were coming to us, they stayed with us, they got work and home. But for me, they are heroines. The fact that they can get over such situations and they never give up on their dreams. She said she was fully convinced she could help her son that he would be rehabilitated and his condition would be much better when they come back to Ukraine. This is one of the amazing stories. Sometimes we had more difficult situations to handle. As Marta said, the phone was ringing all the time and people were asking for help. The help I was asked for to find a home for a baby that came with a mom dying of cancer. That's a challenge. The fact that we managed to find a house for a 14-year-old girl, a loving home, that was one of the most difficult challenges. That's taking responsibility for the child. We knew that that her mom wouldn't stay with her in Poland, wouldn't accompany her. These are the most difficult decisions we have to make because we make them on behalf of the mother who cannot make such decisions on her own. The stories you share are painful and moving. When I talk to activists, to volunteers, I learned that many of them are engaged in their work, often on the expense of their professional and private life. They often mention burnout. Helping is difficult, it is exhausting, especially when you deal with such stories. How do you handle that? It must be really difficult, Marta. When we were having breakfast today, Lisa told me that after some time you don't hear bombs, you don't think about fear because it's something that is simply going on. It's not that if somebody comes to you and asks for help, your emotions are not moved, but it becomes your everyday thing. Will pay this cost sooner or later. Yesterday, a great woman, Jagoda Pasko, came back from Ukraine. She evacuates civilians from the so-called gray zones. They are next to the military zones. Wherever there are civilians, Jagoda reaches this place. We purchased a car for her to evacuate people effectively and quickly. Jagoda acts quickly, but we need to sleep. The biochemistry of the brain combined with stress will simply won't let you carry on. Naturally, the people who we contact every day become our nearest and dearest. They become our family. When the bridge was attacked, I started every day from texting Lisa, "Are you alive? Are you okay?" I simply have a bigger group of brothers and sisters. I used to have one sister, now I have more of them. So I try to get the best of it. The war made online relationships as real as the ones face to face. I take as much from them as possible. The fact that I have my animals, my pets, and my significant other, this is what I derive energy from. When I come back home in the evening, these are the moments of silence and finding energy. Elizavieta, when we were talking informally, you mentioned humor, which is often black humor, that there is no other way to handle it. How does it work? Honestly speaking, laughter helps you live longer. However, I concluded that if we don't smile, if we don't laugh and live our lives here and now, of course, there is war, lots of problems, and lots of things that simply change. Sometimes not all of them can be solved, but if we don't live our lives here and now, we'll burn out. We won't be able to function as personalities. We are all personalities and we've got our missions. I always tell it to volunteers. Each of us has our front in the battle and we have to fight bravely, fight for our position and have our contribution to this world, to this war. Some help evacuate, some help psychologically, others deliver things and add. At the beginning of the war, there were 1 or 2 vehicles. Now the Be Hero volunteers come in 10 vehicles. Jagoda is a brave woman. She covers a long way through Poland, then she goes to Ukraine. She sleeps over in Lviv and then drives to Kiev. Then she goes to Dnipro, sleeps there, and then to Mykolaiv, which is constantly bombarded. And in between, she visits me in Zaporizhia to bring some humanitarian aid. She is the power. Nobody is going to win over us. We are strong. But the most important thing is not to lose the will to live. Sometimes you need to work slowly, you need to slow down. Take a deep breath again and find a new force to come back to work. Animals, pets cure. I also have a dog. When I come back home, I'm very happy that there is the obligation to stay home after a certain hour. But at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. you come back home and there is a dog waiting for you. It doesn't care whether there is war or there is no war. They simply want to go for a walk, eat something and sleep. So you switch to a different mode because you're responsible for your dog. You smile to your dog and you keep calm and carry on. Right, so there's lots of joy in what you're talking about. Zhanna, I know you had your own front. You didn't know whether to come back to Kiev or to stay in Warsaw. What was it like in your case? When did you accept the tremendous change in your life? I would like to say that I am also a human. Even though I understand some psychological processes, it is still deep inside me. When I was renting my first room in Warsaw, it's only 3 months because then I'm going to come back home. It was like negating the status quo and unwillingness to accept it. I needed time to feel offended with these changes. I went to Kiev twice to understand whether I can come back and function in the same way and help others. Because when I know that when I don't have resources, I'm not able to help others. After this visit, I understood I have a deal with myself that I would stay in Warsaw until spring. These physical symptoms I experienced made me take such decision. I was watching a video. People were walking through the park. The 6 seconds, a missile struck, and there was nothing. Once you become aware that your life can end like that, you make a different decision. I do admire such people like Lisa, who works and is involved in such processes. I discussed it with her that I've got an idea how we can help volunteers. They do a lot, but they also have their needs. They must know how to regulate the processes. Many months have passed and now psychosomatic symptoms occur. It means you can separate yourself from your feelings, but your body will have to respond or vent somehow. When I was in Kiev, I understood it would be better for me to stay in Warsaw because I would do more for the people who need help. That was a difficult moment for me as well. When you were sharing your stories, I thought about the will to live. When you lose the will to live, I met a woman who didn't handle her emotions and she came back to Mykolaiv, and it's a very dangerous place. For her, it was an easy way to understand what to do every day when you wake up, how to absorb the new reality. That's why reflection is what can help people in their post-traumatic stress disorders. They can do many things here. There are many talented people. I've got a colleague who is a director, and she says, I want to do something, but I don't know how. Sometimes people need time to accept the new reality and to help Poles and to help their citizens. I would like to mention one more aspect. I asked the question to myself, how come that I'm in Poland for 234 days, but I go to Ukraine, I'm the worst driver in our team of volunteers. What is it like to be 234 days to answer the calls, when you experience the trauma, to find the energy? We handle it, and very often we use sense of humor. Paweł, who is with us, distributed the famous toilet paper with Putin's images. He printed the t-shirts with Idi na chuj slogan, and we constantly laugh at one another that we are late, that customs officers cause problems. Wojtek, our volunteer, went to the border, and during the 41st crossing of the border, he said, the month is alright, the year is okay, but the day is not okay, so you won't go. And there were 2 American surgeons, neurosurgeons, and 8 suitcases full of equipment that was supposed to arrive in Lviv the following day. You can perceive it as a stressful situation, or you can call 4 a.m. in the morning and said, Hi, girl, wake up. You need to help me. There is a task to do something. How are you going to do that? To push that car without me having only 2 Americans on board? That's a very good solution, which sometimes works naturally. Is feeling distanced, smiling, and looking at the bright side. Let's be honest. Never will we look at our Ukrainian brothers and sisters the same way without the war. We would never understand that they defend our world and our values. Our world has become richer, even though it's more difficult now. It is good to operate with this perspective. We remember what we have lost, how much time, how much comfort was lost, how high the inflation rate is. But what have we gained? Great defenders of contemporary world in the East.
Bardzo dziękuję za te piękne.
Thank you very much for your beautiful and true words. I think that we have all remembered the proportions in this difficult time. There is a topic that is equally important, maybe less emotional. Mrs. Kwaśniewska, I wanted to ask you about the challenges for these women, because they are mainly women with small children, school age, nursery age. So very often we talk about their vocational activation. So we've got a wave of outstanding experts, physicians, service providers. So this is the potential we can use. We can provide them space for them to be able to work. But there are also a lot of challenges. So how to cope with them? For the woman to go to work, she's on her own. She has no support, no husband who's probably fighting. She's got small children. So to go to work, she has to have childminders, and it's not so easy. So what are the challenges and how to cope with them and how to support these women to go to work? In our foundation, the girls from Ukraine organized it like this. Together, they rented some accommodation. Some of them work, others look after children. And this is a very reasonable formula. We do realize that it won't be easy for all the children who have come from Ukraine to find places in nurseries, in playgroups, or schools. So we have to support one another. This is the only way. I'm very happy listening to what Marta has said. It's a good summary. I think it's the conclusion how we should approach this tragedy that takes place in the east of Poland. So we mustn't get used to the war. It would be the worst thing possible that could happen. At the very beginning, you were saying that it's not easy. People have become quite fatigued. It's true. Many women who came, they had somewhere to live, but it's very expensive to live now. So Polish families are saying, okay, it's been a long time, we were providing you with accommodation, with food, but we cannot do this any longer, we cannot afford this. I admire such people. In our foundation, we held a big meeting. We invited former presidents, very important people from all over the world, from Europe. We also invited organizations from Poland. We met with great girls who came from Ukraine, and just in 1 month they set up an 11-year school for Ukrainian children in Warsaw. So this is an outstanding activity. We, as the foundation and other organizations, provide them with support in different ways. It's not easy to find one solution. Even if we look at the solutions provided by the state, because our budget is also limited. Well, so people say, okay, 500 plus for children, or free public transport, free healthcare. There were actions undertaken. We cannot say that these Ukrainian refugees didn't receive anything, but these women still need mutual support to make sure that when they can go to work, we should help them to be able to do so. So you girls, you have to get used that it will not be easy for you to find the jobs for which you have been qualified. When I was looking for a job, when I am a lawyer, and when I had my child, I accepted the job that was very close to my home in Ursynów. So a secretary was searched, and I decided to submit my application, and the president of the company said, Jolanta, but your qualifications are much too high to be secretary. And I told him, well, I have to start working. And when the president and the personnel met me, after 3 months I became the director, and I worked there for 3 years. So you girls should not be afraid of such challenges. I have organized a meeting in our foundations. It was for the girls who stopped working, and we had to find another job for them. So, for example, there was an ad that there was a job in a kitchen, or in so that they said this is a job for which social insurance will be paid, and some of them refused. And I think that they should benefit from such opportunities. We should be responsible for our lives, because the state aid, the support of different organizations will be available. I am sure people who come to Poland will be supported. But definitely, we will not manage to help those who have high aspirations. Sometimes there are people who come to Poland and they find they start working in their professions. So there are organizations that help Ukrainian women to obtain all the documentation to start employment. It's not easy, because many physicians came and now they work as nurses, because they still have to have the qualifications approved. So please don't resign. Don't try to use any opportunities. Just use the approach step by step. Try to benefit from these occasions that occur. After each corner, there is something waiting. One door is closing, but another one will open. We live in very difficult world. In Poland, this autumn will be very difficult. It will be a very difficult winter, and our foundation is also scared, is also worried about our beneficiaries. We were running many projects addressed to senior citizens, and now we are dealing with Ukrainians, so we have to balance the issues we addressed. But what is most important, we mustn't stop helping. I have a pleasure to meet with people who come from Ukraine, Deputy Minister for Help. I've met with her in the foundation, and they asked me to say something to cheer them up. So I tell them, each and every war comes to the end. So there will be time when we support you to rebuild Ukraine, the country, that it will be even more beautiful than before. So Slava Ukraine, to Ukraine. we must continue helping. We have to think of our sisters and brothers. And I think that the sisterhood, I don't know if you remember this beautiful image. This so Polish mom left buggies for children of Ukrainian women refugees. So we have this strand of empathy, tenderness, and let's hope it will remain and we will keep working this way. So thank you for the attention. Thank you to the panelists, the First Lady Jolanta Kwaśniewska, Zhanna Lison, Marta Malecka, and Elizavieta Pikalova. Thank you very much.
It's not always easy to recognize. It may look like this, or like this. It may be a burden, but it is a responsibility that we embrace nonetheless. But if it means this for one person and this for someone else, maybe it ultimately means being there for one another. It isn't handed to us, but we know where to find it. And how it feels, how it tastes, and what it sounds like when we finally have it. It means different things to different people, but for many, it means everything. And if we all fight for it, it will eventually bring us together.
Ihre Ausreise.
Atlas Network is, as the name suggests, a network, and it's global. We work all around the world. We're based in the U.S. We have about 159 partners in the United States right now, and the bulk of our partners are outside, nearly 500 in total.
Atlas Network, it connects people from all over the world defending the idea of human dignity, defending human rights and personal liberties.
Atlas Network is focusing on, I think, the most important and moral cause in the entire world.
We partner with local innovators, local leaders who understand conditions on the ground in communities facing real challenges. We look at the people from the worldwide freedom movement that are passionate, are ready to make a difference, understand local conditions, and we invest in them.
At Atlas Network, we unleash individual ingenuity to enrich humanity.
The United States does not have a lock on the idea of freedom and liberty. Those ideas are beyond borders.
One of the main goals of Atlas Network is to eradicate poverty around the world, and we do that by investing millions of dollars in our partners' work every year.
Historically, wealthy nations around the world have tried to help low-income countries develop. The way we've been doing it traditionally has not really been working. So there's a movement to do development differently, and that means we need to step back as outsiders and rethink the role that we're playing in helping people in low-income countries achieve their dreams.
We want to make the world a better place. We want to make the world a freer world.
All of us want to leave a legacy and be part of something big to make a better world. This is exactly the work of Atlas Network.
With our growing number of hundreds of successful partners, we're stronger than ever.
Changing the world.
Changing the world.
Changing the world
Starts together
with us.